Hey gang, welcome to North Goa. In this quick video, I'll share my experience visiting the state of Goa. From Fontainhas to Baga Beach, Anjuna to Arambol. North Goa has a lot to offer. Beautiful sceneries and amazing food as well. And nightlife, if that's what you're into. We landed in Goa airport, so that was our first stop in our Indian trip. So we spent the first night in Panjim, also known as Panaji. That's actually the name of the city on Google Maps. But everyone calls it Panjim. There are several Indian towns with a few names. You'll find a lot of traditional Portuguese architecture in Panjim. Often, you're not meant to take any photos though. You'll see a lot of signs, no photography. I guess if you take a quick photo, you're fine. It's just that a lot of young couples over here often hire a photographer for full photo shoots on the streets. So the state of Goa was actually colonized by the Portuguese. The Portuguese stayed until the 60s, when it was annexed by India. You can still very much feel the Portuguese influence today. You'll see a lot of Catholic churches like the Immaculate Conception Church. No pictures by the cross. A lot of local people also have Portuguese names and last names. The Portuguese were here until the 60s, so that's a bit longer than the rest of India with the Brits, because India was independent from the Brits in 1937. This is the municipal market of Panjim. Not very touristy, it's mainly for local people. We had to go in there to find a local SIM card, would you believe? You can't get them at the airport like in many cities. Now, time for our first masala chai. Smells good. Namaste, I think it's a chain. Very nice though. Don't be afraid to see the swastika sign. You'll see the swastika everywhere around. Of course, in the West it has become a symbol of hate and racism. But it's actually a very peaceful ancient symbol that has been stolen by you-know-who. The swastika is a very important Hindu symbol. It signifies all is good. It's a symbol of hope, apparently. The symbol was important for many ancient societies, including the Greeks. This is the Mahalakshmi temple in Panjim. It was built in 1918 and it features some colorful statues of the goddess of wealth. We had a fish thali for lunch. Casa, Gary and Joshua Diaz. You can feel the Portuguese influence. This is the Fontainhas district, probably the most touristy in Panjim. Suddenly the full street is converted into a giant photo shoot. Paradise for Instagrammers. Lovely little Portuguese old town. A lot of the tourists in Panjim are actually domestic tourists. as opposed to South Goa where people are from everywhere. After that, we jumped on a tuk-tuk towards Baga Beach. It's a long ride, but the tuk-tuks are affordable. You can of course negotiate with them. Don't pay the original price, they tell you. And of course, traffic can get a bit crazy in India. Because of people on the roads, or because of cows blocking the traffic. This is the garden of our little hotel in Baga Beach. Luckily not too close from the city center, because it can be quite loud in the evening. Baga Beach is a party town. Oh, here are some unexpected friends. Cows on the beach. I don't know how the locals locate their cows in the evening. How do they know where they are? Because they're walking around everywhere. And how do they check that their cows are not being stolen? I don't know. Careful though, they might come and visit you on your beach chair. The flag is always red. Out of a week in Goa, I've never seen a green flag. And on those beaches with lifeguards, there are some restrictions in terms of how far you can swim. On my first swim, I was actually surprised to be whistled at. I wasn't even very far at all. But my understanding is that there are a lot of people in India that are not being taught how to swim properly. The average of the population knowing how to swim is actually far lower than in Europe or in Northern America, for example. Time for street food and drinks. You'll see a lot of freshly juiced sugar canes. They often add a bit of ginger and a bit of lime. Yummy! And it's fun to watch it being done as well, with their funny machines. Some of them seem to have a motorcycle motor. Now you'll also see a lot of cashew nuts. A lot of them. Goa is a great producer of cashew fruit. And with the cashew apple, they actually make a liquor called feni. Alcohol is very easy to get in Goa. Now, this is, I believe, called a chaat. It's an Indian snack food. It is sweet and chilly in the same time. I'm not exactly sure what flavor it was. I like trying stuff even if I don't know what it is. Now, in the evening, Baga Beach, it's a bit of a party place. It's very loud. Too loud, to be honest. In most of those beach bars, you can't even hear one another if you're trying to have a conversation. Sadly, a lot of those establishments were not very busy. And that was only days before Christmas, which is meant to be high season. Apparently, sadly, tourism in Goa has dropped down quite dramatically in the last few years. Domestic as well as international tourism. International, well, we know why. It's probably the aftermath of COVID. And in terms of domestic tourism, well, they are still here, but not as many as before, simply because it's not as cheap as it used to be. You know, in the 70s, you had a lot of hippies coming here. Today, tourism is very developed, But a lot of the locals have stopped coming here because it's simply not as cheap anymore. So they started to go to Sri Lanka or Vietnam instead to have cheaper accommodations. Right, no party for us, time for bed. The next morning we rented a scooter to go and explore. We took one each. The scooters were quite affordable in Goa. We spent about €5 for a scooter for a day. This beautiful yellow one was mine. In terms of petrol, you don't have to go to the petrol station. You'll see those little orange bottles everywhere. Local traders would sell you petrol by the bottle. First stop, a Catholic church. There seem to be a lot of Catholics around here, thanks to the Portuguese. Although sometimes you see a crucified Jesus and a Hindu symbol on the very same house, so they don't mind mixing religions. In the cemetery, all the names and last names were Portuguese. Da Sousa, Fernandez. It looked almost like Brazil to an extent. Right, back on the roads. Next stop, Anjuna Beach. For some of the beaches, it can be a bit tricky to find the main entrance. You might have to cross a restaurant. In Anjuna Beach, you'd have some people trying to charge you to park your scooter. You don't have to. You can just park in a restaurant car park. And then have a drink if you want to. That'll cost you the same price as the car park anyway. So that's another chai. I love chai teas, but sometimes they're not that spicy. And time for a beautiful lunch. So that's one North Indian and South Indian. Beautifully served on the banana leaf. What kind of surprised me with actual Indian food as opposed to British Indian food, it's that in India, the curries are very liquid compared to the curries in the UK that are very creamy. And it can be a bit tricky considering that you're meant to eat everything with your hands. Well, you don't have to. You can ask for a spoon. But I tried to do like the locals. After this beautiful lunch, back on the road towards the Chapora Fort. Those are the ruins of a fortress. It was built by the local ruler, requested by the Portuguese. It was part of the northern Portuguese defense. It offers beautiful views towards Panjim. This is the local Feni liquor. This is the cashew version, but you can also have coconuts. I think Feni is double distilled. If it's single distillation, it is urak. Mixed with lemonade, salt, and a couple of spices, it becomes a jungle juice, a local cocktail. This is Arambol. Now, Arambol is actually quite famous with international tourists as well. The demographics of the tourists over here are actually quite different from Baga Beach. There are a lot of young Europeans or Northern Americans on a yoga retreat. If you are into spirituality in general, India is a great place to visit. Now, if you follow the coast north, you go through those little shops and restaurants. Then you'll find another beach called Kalamacha Beach. I think it's a little bit nicer than the main Arambol beach. But beaches choices, it's very subjective, I find. Well, same for towns or cities, really. That's why I try to stay fairly objective in my videos. Because realistically, your first impression of a city or a town or an area really varies depending on forecast, where you stay, and also who are the people you meet. This is the Sweet Lake. Now, sadly, it was closed to swimming when we visited. I don't know why. Probably pollution. But previously you could swim in that lake as well. Now this is a dosa, a breakfast food. On the menus you'll find some funny spellings. Watermelon juice or strawberry shack. And time to jump back on a scooter to go and explore a last beach in North Goa, Panjim. Now, I do hope you enjoyed that little video. If you're planning a trip and have any questions, do pop them in the comments. Or if you are a local and have any suggestions for future travelers, do pop them in the comments as well. If you want to see a bit more of India, do keep an eye out for my next videos. I'll soon be publishing South Goa and a few locations in Kerala as well. So keep an eye out. And if you've made it that far into the video, you might want to consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Bye!